you my introduction. Okay. Yeah, thanks for joining. And I'll be having an introduction. Let me share my screen. Hope my screen is visible. Yeah. A moment. So agenda for the day. Intro about me, that is trainer. Intro about me. Then training methodology. Training methodology and outcome. Then we'll be having the course content or the syllabus. Along with that, we'll be at last we'll be telling you the duration. So right now it's a 3 day 3 days workshop, sorry, 3 days demo session. The demo sessions will be for 3 days, and today is a day one. Yeah, so let me introduce about me. I'm Anita. I have 7+ years of experience working with this AWS, Linux, DevOps, and Active Directory. So yeah, we'll be having a 3 days of demo sessions on Docker and Kubernetes. It's our first day of our demo session on the Docker and Kubernetes. So I'll be walking you through the contents of the syllabus that's going to be covered in the actual classes. That is, the classes will be for 25 days. And we'll be having our demo sessions for the next 2 days as well. And post that, we will be having a real-time classes once you have been registered. Yeah, this is the intro about me. For training methodology, what is it we gonna, have it here? Firstly, I know, like we'll be having a recorded session being uploaded via online drive. Along with that, handy notes, what and all we cover everyday syllabus. So online notes and a recorded live classes. And the timings will not be this 8 o'clock, but I do have another batch from 7 to 8. So this is, I'll be having a demo session for the next 3 days from 8 to 9. So from next week, the classes will be from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. Once you have been registered, the classes will start from next week, or from this Thursday or next Monday. Yeah. So the methodology would be this. Along with the live classes, we'll be providing you the notes. So one can have access. They can view the videos and, like have the notes to practice. Now let me just go through. First of all, why this Docker and Kubernetes? Because when we say why Docker and Kubernetes, in short, will be termed as K8S. That means there is a 8-letter difference for the K and S. So the short term is K8S. So why this Docker and Kubernetes? First of all, this Docker is a containerization tool. Containerization tool. And this Kubernetes, let me term it as K8S for orchestration. It's an orchestration tool. You want to let me, before getting into this, I'll just give you an overview. First of all, what is DevOps? Because this Docker and Kubernetes will come under DevOps tools. What is DevOps? Collection of tools. Also, we'll also say it's a collaboration between developers and operation team. Correct. But actually, that's a terminology given in internet sources and stuff, and that's a real time, I mean, that's a real meaning as well. But in other ways, DevOps is also termed as collection of tools. Why it is termed as collection of tools? Because we do have, when we say this DevOps, we do have something called continuous integration and continuous deployment. What is it? Continuous integration means and continuous deployment. It is all something automated process. So wherein we'll be having continuously gathering, we'll gather the details continuously, we'll continuously plan, we'll continuously develop, we'll continuously integrate, test, we'll delivery, we'll monitor, we'll be deploying. Then upon that, we'll be having a security patches, and then we'll, enable notifications, and we'll have the feedback because this is what the process is, correct? So in order to have a end-to-end process, and this is something an automated process. In order to make that as an automated process, definitely we have to have some tools, correct? For example, for source code management, we will be using for source code management, we will be using GitHub, GitHub or Bitbucket. Earlier it was Bitbucket. We'll be using GitHub something. And for this one, that is, just a moment. For a moment, I'll just stop sharing my screen. 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I'm resharing my screen. Yeah, for source code management, we are using Git or Bitbucket. And for building, that is code build, we have something with respect to Maven or other tools. And for scanning related, we do have SonarQube and Fortify or checkmarks, other tools. And for continuous integration, we do have Jenkins. When we say DevOps, it's something that continuous integration and continuous deployment. And this Jenkins is used for automation purpose. Okay. And in order to provision, that is infrastructure as a code, provisioning, we'll be going with Terraform. And next, the containerization. And for containerization, we'll be using Docker. For orchestration, we'll be going on with Kubernetes. And for monitoring and logging, Prometheus, and Grafana. Prometheus and Grafana. Okay. So this is where it is. So when I say DevOps, it's a collection of tools. So now, apart from all this, why this Docker and containerization? Because I'll just give you an example. In on-prem, wherein we'll be having individual systems dedicated for a particular user. That is, if at all, if there are 10 users, then solely our systems will be dedicated. So wherein, if at all, if we are using Windows, then we have to use only Windows based system. If at all, if we need to switch to Linux, then a fresh OS needs to be installed. Along with that, the earlier OS will be refreshed. I mean, reformatted completely. It will be completely formatted. Again, if you want to switch from Linux to Windows, we have to have a new OS being installed. That means this is what the process is. So whenever we want to switch between or something, like if at all if we need to or use different operating system, then it is something that has to be formatted or wiped out completely, and we have to use it. What is the disadvantage here? Like every time we need to format, every time we need to install. Then the concept of virtualization has come. Okay. Here in this virtualization, what happens? We'll be having, let me go to this. In this virtualization, we'll be having a resource that is my base machine. And on top of that, we'll be having a operating system, I mean host operating system. Upon that, we'll be having, VMs being spinned up. That means, yeah, here it's a base OS, base OS. This is something, and hypervisor. That is a virtualization. And here we'll be having a VMs being installed. That means from the base OS, we'll be having our host operating system. That is what here. It is nothing but host operating system. Where, we'll be having our resources being shared, and upon that we'll be spinning up the VMs. And here for the virtualization, we'll be using like VMware Workstation Pro. Okay. Or other tools can be something like Oracle VirtualBox, and we will be spinning up the VMs. But what is the disadvantage here? It will take a lot of time. And along with that, we need to have separate image being downloaded from the Google. Then we need to have this, the separate software being installed, that is Oracle VirtualBox or VMware Workstation or ESXi. So wherein upon that we will be spinning up the VMs, and it will take a lot of time. And along with that, the thing is, suppose you think in my base machine right now, I have 8 GB RAM, 8 GB RAM, and 1 TB ROM, that is storage. Let me think. Let's give a scenario. And in order to, that Oracle VirtualBox will be installing, and in order to spin up VMs, definitely it should be something that should not be more than 50%, correct? So I'll take only 4 GB, and let's keep it as 500 GB of ROM. Okay. Now in order to spin up VMs, I'll be giving this 4 GB and only 4 GB RAM and only 500 GB of ROM. That's it. And and for the VMs, let me launch for Windows for now. For Windows, I can give I can give all 4 GB, or I can give like 2 GB of RAM, 2 GB of RAM, and 200 MB of ROM. And I also have one more OS being installed, that is for Linux. I would like to give 1 GB of RAM, and let me keep it as 300 MB GB, 300 GB. I can also give just like a 50 GB also, 50 GB of ROM. So what happens here, from my base machine, I'm sharing the resource for for virtualizing and spinning of the VMs. But what happens here in this virtualization, I'm giving completely, I mean, from the 4 GB, I'm giving 2 GB for this Windows and 1 GB for Linux. But when I spin up, when I launch applications, for example, a HTTPD web server, or Nginx as well, or Python or anything, that case, the amount of resources which have been allocated, that application won't use the complete resources being allocated. That means out of 2 GB and 200 MB, it won't use complete 2 GB and 200 MB, and it will be using the lesser than this. That means in this virtualization concept, this is something, the allocated amount of resources is not being utilized completely from this application, from the web applications. Why? Because here we do have a hypervisor being installed from our end, that is Oracle VirtualBox. So from there, and also we do have image being installed, that is kernel. We do have a kernel here. That is why it has been, the spaces left out by this operating system will be used by applications. That means resources are not being utilized completely. This is the disadvantage of virtualization that led to the concept of containerization. Okay, what happens in this containerization? Here, the amount of resource, allocated, the allocated amount of resources, like the RAM, storage, CPU, like 1 core, 2 core CPUs or memory which has been allocated, will be completely used. Resources will be completely used, or I can say optimized. Optimized. So this is the reason we are going with containers. And in containers, we do have other tools, but Docker is the most popular one. And why it is being used? Because it is a platform independent, wherein we can install this Docker even on Windows, Linux, or any other Debian based systems like Ubuntu and so on. And why this container? What is the advantage of this containerization? Like I can just create a container. I can have a, I can show here. Hmm. So I can have a container. I can have, the main resources. And upon that, we'll be, having here. And then this is our base machine. And here, the container Docker will be installing a Docker. Upon that, we'll be having our OS, that is operating system. And on top of that, I'll be having applications. So this is for this is my infrastructure. Infrastructure means my base OS. Here it will be host operating system. One more layer has to come. 1 minute. Upon host operating system, I'll be having a Docker installed. And on that Docker, we'll be having our applications. Application 1, application 2, application 3. Application 1. App 2, application 2, and so on. This is third or fourth. So here we'll be using a Docker. So that is the, most popular and widely used container tool. This is an overview about the difference between virtualization, on-prem virtualization, or a containerization. And what happens, what happens with this Docker? I can say this Docker is whether it is a stateful or a stateless application. This Docker is a stateless application. This Docker is a stateless application. And the difference between stateless and stateful is so simple. Stateless means it is not persistent. Not persistent. And stateful means something that is persistent. Not persistent means, for example, we all hit for weather app, weather data, right? We'll just go to Google and click on weather now. And if I just go tomorrow to the same page, and if at all if I give weather data, will it give the same detail or will it recognize me? No, it is something stateless. That means it is not persistent and the data will be new. But when it comes to persistent, I can give you a best example of online transactions or banking related statements. Today I have withdrawn some amount like 500 or 1000, and tomorrow I'll again withdraw some money. Won't that be having yesterday's records or even the 6 months record? Or that is what we do have something called passbook detail, correct? Yeah. So here in this persistent or a stateful connection, it is something the data is persistent and it will have the previous record. Okay. Here, why this Docker is stateless? Because once I just delete the container, it is something that the data won't be permanent. But we can make it as a persistent by using a concept of Docker volume. That is something we'll be knowing it in a real classes once you have been registered. So this is one of the feature of Docker wherein stateless, but we can make it stateful or persistent via the concept of Docker volume. So what exactly will it be? In this Docker, what and all we'll cover. Okay, let me just go to this Docker. What is repository? Because I said about, image or something. We'll have Docker image. Just put up here. See, in order to run a container, the first thing we need is Docker image. And that Docker image is something, 1 minute. The Docker image is something we'll have here in Docker Hub. This is a Docker Hub from where we will be getting the image. Example, if at all, if I need for Python, I need to run Python image. Python, then I can have this Python. What is this image? This all we'll call this as image because it is not an exact operating system. Rather, it will be having operating system binaries and dependencies. That is why it is very quick to get the container being created. This hands-on we'll see in detail on day 3 of our demo session. Because for day 1 and day 2, it is completely planned with theoretical sessions where we'll explain you and we'll give you, today it will be a listing of the course and the contents. And for tomorrow, it will be, in depth of how the architecture or how exactly the Docker communicates internally along with the Kubernetes process. On day 3, it will be a demo session. That means a hands-on experimentation, like how exactly we'll create a container and how, we'll be able to, have it. The web application is ready to access. When I say image, that image is something will be in terms of only binaries and dependencies. Okay. Then the repository, that is nothing but Docker Hub, which we have used right now. So when I give the, when I give the command, it will go to Docker host. Then from there, it will get the image. then the image will be downloaded and the container will be created. That is how the process is, and we'll know this tomorrow, like how the process flow in depth, how exactly the image will be downloaded or something. Then what is Docker? Obviously, it's for containerization. And what is it? Kubernetes for managing. Docker is for creation. Kubernetes is for managing. Means managing the containers that is being created. We'll also know in detail about what is Docker, what is container, and Docker image. What is what are those image, or how to list them, or how to download an image, and Docker file, something that is nothing but where we will be having our own image being created and we will be uploading it, and from that we will be having our own container being created and running. That is something with respect to Docker file. And we'll be having networking concept. That means how we are making two containers to communicate with each other. That is via networking. And next, something called Docker volume. Docker volume, wherein how do we how will make the data persistent using the Docker volume concept. And something Docker compose, wherein we can execute all the commands at once. So we'll be knowing it in depth. And next, we'll also be knowing about, we do also have the terminology called Docker Swarm, which is an orchestration tool, but we'll not be using this because Kubernetes is the most wide and it has multiple features available. That is the reason we'll be going with Kubernetes. And why do we need to have an orchestration tool here? First of all, why only containerization is not enough, and why do we need to go for orchestration? In containerization, what happens is, yeah, I'm here. So in containerization, what happens is we'll be able to create or manage single host or standalone container. That means I can create a container individually. But in Kubernetes, it's a multiple containers. That means I can have a replica set, and also to make it high availability. The concept of high availability comes in the Kubernetes concept, wherein we'll be making the containers to be available in such a way that even if any of the container or a pod dies, so that the data won't be lost or the communication would happen smoothly without any interruptions. That is the reason orchestration tool is necessary. Okay. And also we do have orchestration platforms. Not only Kubernetes, we do have Docker Swarm, OpenShift, and etc. But Kubernetes is the most widely used. And we will be having the same syllabus here as well. Not only this Kubernetes, we do have other cloud managed orchestration or cloud provided orchestration tools. Cloud managed or provided orchestration tools, that is AWS EKS, Amazon Web Service Elastic Kubernetes Service, where in order to spin up the VMs, we will be using Amazon Web Services, Amazon Amazon Cloud provided service. And for Kubernetes, we'll say it Elastic Kubernetes Service, that is AWS EKS. And for Azure, it's Azure Kubernetes Service. And GKS as well, Google Kubernetes Service. Okay. Yeah. So next, these all the, apart from this, we do have port mapping as well, the concept. What is this port mapping in Docker? Because right now we are inside this container. We'll be here. In order to make that available so that I can access from my Google Chrome, we have to, map the port. That means from the container port, we have to expose it to the external port so that it can be accessible either from your end, or even one can access outside the container, like using that particular IP colon port number. So that is also one of the concept in Docker. This is all with respect to Docker. Now I'll be going with Kubernetes. Some might be hearing it for the first time. I mean, some terminologies would be totally, confusing, or it might look like a jargon, but some might have already been into this field and already might be aware. So, but I'm just explaining like what and all we cover here in this Kubernetes concept. So we'll be creating this Kubernetes cluster using our KOPS, that is Kubernetes operation, and we'll be using with KubeADM. Okay, we'll be using KubeADM and KOPS, that is Kube operations. And next, we do have, some concepts we'll be knowing in depth about Kubernetes workloads. That is something with respect to what and all would come into this, because tomorrow on day 2, I'll be explaining what each concept is. I mean, what exactly it is. So we'll be having pods. What is this pod? That is something, like in Docker, we call it as container, but in Kubernetes, we call it as pod. Pod is like a wrapper upon the container. We'll be giving a name. So inside the pod, containers will be running. So pod is like a wrapper. Then we'll be having a, replica set, which means making sure that ensured number of pod replicas are running. For example, if I say replica set 3, 3 replica of pods will be running, and it will make sure that that required number of replica sets are running efficiently. And we do have something called deployments. That is something with respect to, it manages the life cycle of the applications, like rolling updates or rollbacks, and it will give updates to pods and replica sets, like what and all the update is, or rollback. What if we need to, just roll back or update the status? That is also. And next thing is stateful set. That is something designed for managing the stateful applications, like persistent, like rescheduling or restarting the pod. So we'll, have a persistent data. For example, it's useful for databases, because that databases are something that should be having, stable network, and it should have persistent storage. So the concept of stateful set comes into this view. And something next concept would be daemon sets, wherein it makes our ensure that a copy of pod is running on all the cluster. So in the cluster, we'll be having a worker node and a master and a worker node. This we'll be knowing depth by tomorrow. So in that worker node, yeah, we'll be having kubelet or proxies. But what is the responsibility of this daemon set is that it will make sure that a copy of a pod is running on a particular node in a cluster. We might not understand today, but tomorrow we'll understand in depth. Okay. Now, what are the Kubernetes services that are actually covered here? That is Kubernetes services, cluster IP, cluster IP. That is something with respect to exposing the service on a cluster internal IP. That means so that that particular service is accessible only within that particular cluster. Okay, so that is cluster IP. Then we'll go with the node port. That is, we'll be exposing that particular service on each node's IP port. That is like node IP and a node port. So, it will allow the traffic to access the service. This is all something we'll be knowing in depth once we get into practicals or writing a script. So in order to write a script, we'll be using YAML files. YAML, using YAML files. That is where we'll be, running a script and we'll be having our hands-on session being executed. Load balancer, that is with something, when the request is high, it will make sure to distribute the traffic to the service so that without any downtime or able to manage the request even when the request is high. When the request is low, automatically it will balance or adjust the resources accordingly. That is with respect to load balancing. And how will we achieve using Kubernetes? We'll be knowing that. Then this is something external name. That means we'll be mapping with a DNS. We'll be mapping the service for, we'll be, updating in a CNAME. That is when we have our own domain, we'll be updating the record with the name so that it will be consistent. We'll be using the consistent DNS name. Okay, that is one of the thing. And the next thing is headless service. This is something headless. That means a service without a cluster IP. So it will be allowing us means our clients, to connect directly with the pods. Usually, in order to connect with a pod, that particular API server has to communicate with Kubelet. But in this headless service, it will allow us to directly connect with the pods. And we also have something called ingress. It allows us to, define the rules for routing the traffic. Like for load balancing, or how exactly we have to, manage the external traffic, or how do we, access the services via HTTP or HTTPS mode. So that we will learn in this ingress. So we have this props and sidecar containers. This is something, this props will make sure that the health, it will check the health of the containers, that if it is ready to handle the traffic, or if it is running, readiness of the container. It will make sure it is healthy, it is ready to, take the workload. Something like that will be taken care by these props. Sidecar container is something that, as the name itself says, sidecar, it's an additional container. It will run along the, main container, and it is used for something like, logging, monitoring. Okay, so that is one of the thing. And we do have namespaces and resource quotas. So what are these namespaces? Right now, I'll just go to this Google. I have a number of tabs being open. This is something I have another tab being open, and here one more. But how they are, will they be able to communicate to each other? That means this is something independent and this is also something independent. But will they be able to communicate each other? No. Similarly, even in the containers, when we have a lot of containers being running, it will be isolated from each other and it will be independent. How will that be achieved? It is via namespaces. So via namespaces, that will be achieved. And what is this remote resource quota? That means we are limiting the amount of resources, for example, CPU, memory, so that only that particular amount of resources should be used by that particular namespace. If at all, if I give in the resource quota stating only 1 GB, then that particular namespace has to use or utilize only that 1 GB. Then we have some advanced scheduling concepts. Advanced scheduling, which includes node selectors. What is this node selectors? It will allow us to it will allow us to constrain the pods to run with the specific labels. That means we'll give a label to particular, pods. So we'll choose that particular node and we'll make that particular, with a label, so that that particular pod is running on that particular node which has been selected. When we say scheduling, that we will choose, we will decide, we will schedule on which node, or on which node a particular pod has to run. Then we do have the node affinity, taint, and toleration. Node affinity is something, it provides more rules apart from that node selector. Like, it will make us to define a particular rules, so that, only in that particular, like node, the particular pod should run. It should not run in other node. So it's like, apart from, it's like a comparison for node selector, wherein node affinity means it has more rules being defined. And taint and toleration, it is something that only that particular pods are scheduled on a suitable nodes. Means it makes that no other pods are actually executing or scheduled. Okay, that's something with respect to taints and tolerations. And we do have pod affinity, pod affinity and anti affinity. Here, the concept would come into picture, wherein it will, define a rules in such a way that that particular should or it should not be scheduled together. So based on a label. So we'll be having a label on a particular node. So, that pod should be either it should be scheduled together or not. So these are something, advanced scheduling, wherein we'll be choosing out of the normal feature. And RBAC concept, that is role-based access control. That is with respect to, Kubernetes resources. So we need to define a role for and assign a specific permission for a particular user or a service account, so that it will only perform that particular activity, and it will be having an authority to perform those actions on a particular resource. For example, if I create a user and give him an admin access, then he'll be having entire or all the authorities rights to modify, create, or delete. But when I just create a user and assign only read only or view or only modify permission or deletion permission, in that case, that user with a particular role will be having only that level of authority to perform the action. Okay, that is with respect. And how are we restricting? We'll be knowing it in depth. In under storage concepts, we do have, like empty directory. It is something a temporary storage volume that's been created, when the pod is assigned to a node. When a pod gets assigned to a node, a temporary storage volume will be created, and that is something empty dir, that is empty directory. Next, we do have host path volumes, wherein it will allow a pod to use a file or a directory on a nodes file system. It is useful for accessing a storage, okay, which are locally been resided. So that is with respect to host path volume. Host path means completely it's a nodes file system, because where the pod will be executing, it will be executing on a node. Next, something persistent volumes and PV means persistent volume claims. So what is this persistent volume? We are making sure that the data is permanent and, it's a storage. So it will allow the users or us to request the storage resources. We'll just get the details. When we request for our volumes, we'll get the details without knowing anything about the infrastructure or something. Where when we raise a request for our volumes, we'll be getting it. Then we do have EFS, that is Elastic File System, which will help us, like it's like a shared file system, wherein it can be, shared and accessible by multiple pods. For example, even in Amazon EFS, where if I just mount the EFS, then even two to simultaneously, I mean, multiple users can access and write the data so that it will be reflecting both the ways. Means even if I edit, then you will be able to view, and if you edit, then I'll be also. That means it's a reflect both the sides. It will be reflecting it. And at last, we'll be using Helm charts. What is this Helm? It's we all know that it's a package manager. Why? Because it simplifies our deployment and the management of applications. That is, it can be, something the resource can be, we can configure, we can easily install. Okay, so we'll be using Helm charts in Kubernetes, which will be like a GUI based. At last, we do have ELK stack. It's an Elasticsearch, that is like a logging for logging, like Kibana or something other like Logstash or something will be used for analyzing or visualizing the data. Correct. So this is also in Kubernetes. This is something that is used for analyze the logs from the various pods. Like what are the logs being collected over, etc. So these are the syllabus that's gonna be covered in Docker. This is the one. These are the ones, and in Kubernetes, these are the ones. And the duration will be for 25 days. Hope the same is pasted over the chat window, like what is the duration and the fees or something. And if you have any concerns, you can reach out to the mentioned number. Okay. So, and the timings will be, actually the timings will be from 7:30 to 9, the actual class timings once you register. Okay, 7:30 to 9 p.m. But for demo will have 8 to 9 p.m. for next 3 days. Including today, for next 2 days, we'll be having a demo from 8 to 9 p.m. And the thing is, those who have registered for the classes, they'll receive a different link wherein only those users will be able to join for the classes upon registration. So for any further queries, you can just, reach out to the institute wherein they have provided their contact. So even tomorrow and day after tomorrow, we'll be having a demo sessions. So tomorrow also from 8 to 9, so we'll be having a day 2. And on day 3, we'll be having a hands-on experimentation, like a quick overview, like how are we installing a Docker and executing some basic commands. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for today, it's done for the day. Let
Sorry
me
to
know
interrupt.
if you have
Yeah.
any queries.
Yeah. And so, are we
Sorry,
dealing with
a
like a
bit louder.
model registry, something like that? Do you have like a model registry or registry something? The topic are you covering here?
Model registry?
Yeah.
Uh, no. But yeah, it's a subtopic and we'll be getting that.
Okay. So, I mean, deploying and running right in the container. So we need to register something, right? Are you covering all that?
Yeah, we'll be doing it.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So any questions? The window is open for next 4 minutes and one can ask if they have any doubts with respect to the contents or the syllabus. So even tomorrow and after tomorrow, one can join and, get to know what exactly or how, like the the syllabus or in-depth knowledge of this, and then one can decide.
Hi, Anita. So,
Yeah, hi.
Tushar here. So, as you mentioned, like the duration, okay, fine. And the what I'm telling, so it's on weekdays, right? Means,
Yes, obviously, yes. Weekdays,
so
7:30 to
weekly
9.
3 days or weekly 3 days or
5 days.
5 days, huh?
Weekly 5 days for 25 days.
Uh-huh.
And the timings would be from 7:30 to 9. Actually, this is a demo session. Okay, because I have a classes from 7 to 8.
Okay.
So after that, so as it is a demo, it's from 8 to 9. But once students have been registered, it will be from officially it will be from 7:30 to 9 p.m.
Okay. But Monday to Friday.
Yes, Monday to
Uh,
Friday. Yes, weekly
okay.
5 days. It's a weekdays.
Okay. Okay.
And one more thing I have to tell here. Here, end-to-end process is not something. Yes, we'll take a random example. It is not something that is intended like only we have to take either YAML based or a Java based or React or some kind of applications wherein if we just go in a particular, then what if we need to just have other applications being executed, then it will be something the process is diverted. So here we'll be knowing how exactly we are deploying or creating, or how are we exposing a service, so that how are we able to access that particular web application. So if we understand, without understanding the basics, we just can't go with like higher level, correct? So that's why we are just going from starting from, and we'll be knowing what exactly that particular concept or that particular like in that a concept or a sub-concept, what exactly it is doing. So once if we understand the syntax or the workflow, we'll be able to launch or have our own project dependency related applications. So this is what actually we are following here. This is not here we are not this is not something that it's a complete end to end either Java project. No, it is not something like that. It's not a end to end complete project kind of. We'll be having examples in order to create a pod or a service. Yes, definitely we'll expose it. We'll be able to access in web application, but this is not something that is intended for only one technology. Okay, so one can have their own like project dependencies related applications being created. Here we'll be going with a general.
And in cloud also, you said that only AWS, right, Anita? So,
Because see, I'll be using AWS Linux instances or Ubuntu based.
so is there any
Because
chance we can move to other clouds like GCP or Azure?
one
Some
can opt for GCP and Azure as well, but we all know that I mean, as this is for a training for 25 days training session, we in AWS it is something that we do have free tier eligibility something. So in Azure we do not have that amount of resources wherein we can spin up n number of VMs, correct? And in order to have a virtual box being installed or a VMware workstation being installed, and in order to spin up VMs over there, it's really a tedious one, which takes almost an hour just to spin up our single VM. That is the reason we are going with AWS, Linux or Ubuntu based instances, which is easier for us to spin up VMs. But definitely, we'll be sharing the handy notes. See, irrespective of any cloud providers, ultimately the process is completely same. The only thing is the GUI or some commands would be different, correct? Here also we'll be launching a virtual machine. There also we'll be launching, here we'll be launching an instance. There we'll call it as a resource. Here it's a security group in AWS, there it's a resource group. So ultimately some terminologies are different, but the terminologies or the cloud key concepts. What do we say for key concepts of cloud would remain same. So irrespective of any cloud, the process remains same, but in AWS, we do have free tier eligibility so that it will be easier for us to spin up and, utilize the resources. once been practiced here, one can, practice in their using their Azure or GCP as well. But here we'll be using with AWS Cloud Provider. So any more questions? Please let me know if you have any questions. The details in order to, reach out to institute is being pasted over the chat window. So one can just reach out to them. Please join for tomorrow and day after tomorrow session as well.
Okay, sorry, Anita. So are you providing any kind of materials? Have you
Obviously, yes. Once we have our live classes, the classes will be recorded and that would have been uploaded in a drive, and along with that, everyday notes. So the set of commands or what exactly it is. In order to create a container, what steps we have followed.
Okay.
So everyday videos and notes, both will be uploaded in the drive and one can access it. And to the registered email address, they'll be giving an access for your registered email address. And it will be available for like whenever they want, they can just have it in handy.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
so thank you too. So if no more questions, we'll wind up for the day. We'll catch up tomorrow as well. So tomorrow it will be a day 2 session. Please do join. And we'll wind up for the day. So we'll catch up tomorrow. Thank you all for joining.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.